Minor key signatures always reflect the natural minor version of the scale. We talk about how major and minor scales relate to one another in two different ways. Parallel key signatures are major and minor keys that have the same tonic but different key signatures. Let's look at the C major and C natural minor scales. They both have the same tonic, C, but the key signature for C major has no sharps and flats, and the key signature for C minor has 3 flats. This is an example of parallel key signatures. In math, when you think of 2 parallel lines, you think of 2 lines extended in the same direction and not meeting. They never meet because they begin at different points. In key signatures, these parallel lines are the scales, and the different starting points are the 2 different tonics. There are also relative key signatures. Relative key signatures are major and minor keys that have the same key signature but different tonics. Let's look at C major and A minor. They both have the same key signature of no sharps or flats, but they have different tonics. When you think about relatives, you think about people whom you have a connection to, but who are not exact replicas of each other. The connection between these 2 keys is the key signature. Think of the key signature like the genetic material held in common between family members. You may have also noticed that these scales with the same key signature contain the exact same pitches. It can be helpful to think of relative scales as a circle of pitches. On this diagram, whole tones are represented by green wedges, and semitones are represented by smaller blue wedges. If you start on C and play the pitches around the circle, you get a major scale. If you start on A and play the pitches around the circle, you travel through a different pattern of whole tones and semitones and get a natural minor scale. It's important to remember at this point that you can take the natural minor scale and alter pitches to raise the 6th and the 7th scale degrees. So in pieces or sections of music written in a minor key signature, accidentals will exist. Let's look at the distance between the 2 tonics of relative scales. Here is C on the keyboard, and here is A. Here they are on the staff. These pitches are a minor third apart. We can use this information to determine the relative minor of any major key signature. If you are given a major key signature, say B flat major, and asked to find the relative minor, think down a minor third to find the tonic of the minor key. I like to remember this step by thinking about how major scales are happy and minor scales are sad. To be sad is often called feeling down. So to move from happy major to sad minor, you have to think down a minor third. Here is B flat on the piano and on the staff. Build a minor third below this B flat and you get G. The relative minor to B flat major is G minor. These 2 keys share the same key signature of 2 flats, but have different tonics. This also works in reverse. If you are given a minor key signature, say F minor, and asked to find the relative major, think up a minor third from F to find the tonic of the major key. Just as thinking from happy major to sad minor made us feel down, thinking from sad minor to happy major will lift our spirits up a minor third. In this case, a minor third up from F is A flat. You can write the key signature for A flat major, and it encompasses both the keys of A flat major and F minor. Another way of thinking about relative keys is to realize that the tonic of the relative minor is the submediant or 6th scale degree or law of the relative major. And the tonic of the relative major is the mediant, or the 3rd scale degree, of the relative minor. Let's complete an example where we determine the key signature for a parallel key. Let's determine the key signature for the parallel minor to E major. Remember that parallel keys have the same tonic, but different key signatures. So the parallel minor to E major is E minor. Since parallel keys don't have the same key signature, we must use our knowledge of relative key signatures to determine the key signature for E minor. We know it shares a key signature with its relative major key. Since we are determining the relative major from a minor key, we need to think up. Up a minor third from E is G. That means that E minor and G major share the same key signature. The key signature for G major is 1 sharp. That means that the key signature for the parallel key of E major, E minor, is 1 sharp. By using our knowledge of relative major and minor, we are able to determine the key signatures of parallel keys. Let's add the information about relative minor key signatures to the circle of fifths. Relative minor keys are positioned inside the circle. Now we have a complete representation of all major and minor key signatures, their tonics, and their relationship by perfect fifth. Let's review the concepts of relative and parallel scales using an example starting with C major that will show the relationship between these types of keys. C major is the key signature with no sharps and no flats, and which is built on the piano using all of the white notes. If we use these same pitches, but start on the submedian of the C major scale, A, we get a relative scale that has the same key signature, but a different order of intervals than C major and a different tonic. If we use the same pitches of the A minor scale, but start on the median, C, we get back to its relative key of C major. If we want to determine the parallel minor to C major, we'll start on the same tonic of C, but we need to figure out what key signature to use. Now we use our knowledge of relative keys, think up a minor third from the tonic of C to find the relative major that has the same key signature as C minor, and we get E flat major, which has 3 flats. We add that key signature to C major to create the parallel key of C minor. Practice writing and identifying minor key signatures. As you approach key signatures in your music, determine if you are in a major or minor mode, and then determine what the key signature is. Just like major key signatures, you need to be able to identify and recall minor key signatures with minimal thought.